Good afternoon. In the previous session, we have seen optical fiber, coaxial cable, and twisted pair. And in today's session, we will see the wireless transmission mediums. But before that, I would like to continue with optical fibers, a few topics of optical fibers. So we have seen the benefits of optical fiber in the previous class. In today's class, we will see the uh, places or applications where optical fibers are used. So applications for optical fiber are: first is long haul trunks, or the distances of around 1500 kilometers in length. And so this is long haul trunks. It is about 1500 kilometers length distances. And these systems compete economically with microwave and have a coaxial cable, but nowadays these are replaced with optical fibers. So undersea optical fiber cables are also being used in these days. After that, it is used in metropolitan areas, so metropolitan trunks. So basically, the names are all new, but we have to focus on the distances, on what kind of distances are optical fibers being laid. So optical fibers are for metropolitan trunks, that is around 12 kilometers, and they may have around 1 lakh voice channels. That is multiple optical fibers laid together. So in this category, like the earlier long haul trunks, it is basically for terminating the voice or interference that occurs usually in twisted pairs or coaxial cables. After that, we have rural exchange trunks. Rural exchange trunks, that is for around 40 kilometers to 160 kilometers link in towns and villages. So in United States, they often connect the exchange of different telephone companies. And if we have around 5,000, so in the case of rural exchange trunk, we have around 5,000 voice channels. After that, we have the fourth one is subscriber loop. So subscriber loop are fibers that run directly from the central exchange or from the central tower to a subscriber. So earlier we used twisted pairs or coaxial cables on the telephone networks, but now it has changed to optical fibers. And finally, another important application is in the case of LANs. So optical fibers are being used in the case of LANs. So for LANs, standards have been developed, and different kinds of products for optical fiber networks have been introduced. That is, some optical fibers may have a capacity of 100 Mbps, while other optical fibers may have a capacity of up to 10 Gbps, so 100 Mbps. So the range in this case is 100 Mbps. So now it is even 100 Gbps, but in the textbook, since it is mentioned as 10 Gbps, I'll mention the same. And it can support 100 or even thousands of stations. So in this case, stations are basically the different modes, the different traveling modes or the different transmission mediums in this each case. So those are the stations. And basically optical fiber has replaced almost all the coaxial cables and the twisted pair wires which were used earlier, because these days the demand is for all types of information. We are sending videos, uh, images, data, audio, etc. So for that reason, optical fiber has replaced all the uh, guided transmission medium, that is coaxial cable and twisted pair wires. Now, after that, what are the transmission characteristics of an optical fiber? So, how does an optical fiber transmit the data? It uses the concept of total internal reflection to transmit the light. So, total internal reflection can occur in any transparent medium that has a higher index of refraction than the surrounding medium. So, basically, it acts as a waveguide for around 10 power 14 to 10 power 15 hertz. So the frequency is about 10 power 14 to 10 power 15 hertz, and this is a portion of your infrared and visible spectrum. We have seen that diagram earlier. So in that, this 10 power 14 to 10 power 15 hertz is also the frequency of infrared and visible spectrum. And what kind of light does it reflect, or what is the kind of light that is total internal reflection is done on? So there are two different types of light sources that are used in the fiber optic system. One is the LED, the light emitting diode, and the other is the ILD, injection laser diode. So both both of these light emitting diode and the injection laser diode are semiconductor devices that emit a beam of light when a voltage is applied. Okay, so now what is the differences between the two? LED is cheaper and it has a wider operating temperature range. That is, it can operate at a wide varieties of temperature range, and it has a longer life. That is, LEDs do not go defective early, so they last longer. While the ILD, it is more efficient and it has a greater data rate. That is, in the case of ILD, whenever we are using the injection laser diode, it has a greater data rate because we are using lasers. In this case, since lasers are very effective and they have a single source of uh, light, so that is the reason it is more efficient. And there is a relation in the case of optical fibers. There is a relation between the wavelength, the type of transmission, and the data rate. So in the we have different kind of transmission modes. One is the step index multi-mode, graded index multi-mode, and the single mode. So this optical fiber transmission modes are of three types. Now, so whenever we are talking about how the data is passed, so light from a source enters this cylindrical or plastic core. So we have seen the optical fibers. What is the how is an optical fiber constructed basically? So it has a plastic or a glass core, then it has a laser or a light emit, it has a jacket and a cladding. So in this case, so light from a source. So over here it enters the cylindrical glass. So either this inside core will be made up of a cylindrical glass or it will be made up of plastic. So rays are at the shallow angles are reflected. So if the rays enter here, they are reflected back, and in this way they propagate along the fiber, and the surrounding rays are absorbed by the surrounding material. So this kind of transmission or propagation is the step index multimode. That is, there are different angles at which the rays will reflect. So with multimode, what do you mean by this multimode term? Transmission, multiple propagation paths exist. So one is this propagation, the other is this one. One of them has ended over here, that is, it has been observed by the surrounding material. So this is a multimode transmission. After that, whenever we are talking about multimode transmission, the data rate is a bit limited, or data rate is not high, and this type of transmission is suited for very short distances. So at each time, whenever this light is being hit by the surrounding material, light hits the surrounding material, it is absorbed. So that is why it is not suitable for long distances, it is only suitable for very short distances. Now when the this core radius is reduced, fewer angles will reflect. So by reducing the radius of the core to the order of a wavelength, in this case, if we reduce it completely, that is only a single ray can pass through, then this is called the single mode. Okay, so when we want to send it for a longer distances, so this is basically for superior performances. So single mode is for superior performance, that is light won't be observed and the entire data will be transmitted as it is. And this is in the case of short distances. Okay, so because there is a single transmission path with a single mode transmission, there is no distortion or noise or interference. So single mode is used for long distance applications such as telephone and cable television. Now, suppose if we are varying the distance of the core or the refraction of the core is varied, then we get this graded index multimode. So basically what we are doing here is we are changing the core size so that here instead of zigzagging, that is instead of the light rays being in the zigzag form, they are in the form of curves, and this reduces the travel distances and the shortened. So here the travel distance is only this much. Each time the light is traveling for a curved distance. So this allows for graded index fibers are used for often used in the local area networks or in the case of LANs. So not for superior performance or for short distance, but they are kind of in the middle. So this shortened path and higher speed allows light at the periphery to arrive at the receiver. So basically they are used in the case of local area networks. And so with this we conclude the transmission modes, guided transmission modes. And now we will start the wireless transmission. So once again we have studied about twisted pair, then we have studied about coaxial cable, and then we have optical fiber network. Now, the next thing is the wireless transmission. So, unguided transmission techniques, wireless is also by the name that we have seen earlier when we started the topic was unguided transmission, and the other one was guided transmission. So, unguided transmission techniques are used for information communication, that is, for example, we have broadcast radio, then microwave, terrestrial microwave, and satellite. So infrared transmission is used in some LAN applications. Three general ranges of frequencies. We will study three ranges of frequencies. One is the 2 gigahertz to 40 gigahertz, that is for microwave. And then we have 30 megahertz to 1 gigahertz, that is for the radio. And then we have the infrared from 3 into 10 power 11 to 2 into 10 power 14 hertz. So here I did not mention, this is simply hertz. So that is for infrared. So there are three types of wireless transmission frequencies that we will study. One is from 2 gigahertz to 40 gigahertz, 30 megahertz to 1 gigahertz, and 3 into 10 power 11 into 2 into 10 power 14 hertz. So the first one is the microwave, that is the terrestrial microwave frequency. Then we have the broadcast radio, and then we have infrared. So microwave frequencies are highly directional beams, that is are suitable, and microwave is suitable for point-to-point transmission. And microwaves is used for satellite communications. Now, frequencies in this 30 megahertz to 1 gigahertz is for radio, that is the radio range, and they are omnidirectional, that is they are in all the directions, transmission in all direction. Then another important frequency is the infrared spectrum, infrared portion of the spectrum, that is from 3 into 10 power 11 to 2 into 10 power 14 hertz. It is used for local point to point, so local point to point and multi-point applications. Multi-point applications in the local areas or confined within some areas. So for unguided media, transmission and receptions are achieved by the means of antennas. For wireless transmission, that is, we have antennas And after that, antennas were used earlier, and now we have various other concepts that we use. But for now, we will see a basic introduction of antennas. So an antenna is basically an electrical conductor or system of conductors used either for radiating electromagnetic energy or for collecting electromagnetic energy. So basically, whenever we are using antennas, they are conductors which are for either spreading out the radiating is basically spreading out the electromagnetic energy or collecting the electromagnetic energy. Now, for transmitting of a signal, the antennas use radio frequency energy from the transmitter. It is converted into radio frequency is converted into electromagnetic energy by an antenna, and then it is radiated into the surrounding environment. So this is for the transmitting of a signal. Now for the reception of a signal, that is for collecting the signal, electromagnetic energy which is on the antenna is converted into radio frequency electrical energy, which is then fed into the receiver. So in the two-way communication, the same antenna can be and often is used for both transmission and reception. This is possible because antennas are usually the same whether it is sending or receiving the electromagnetic energy. So this was used. Antennas were used in the earlier times. So if uh, if you recollect, the terraces used or terrace in the traditional Indian households used to have an antenna which was to be adjusted when it rains. So these antennas were collecting the electromagnetic energies and distributing the electromagnetic energies for the transmission. Now the next we have is microwave. So terrestrial microwave systems. So basically, terrestrial microwaves are used for long distance telecommunication. They are used for short point to point links, and the reason they are used is because it is an alternative for coaxial cables and optical fibers. And in the case of coaxial cables and optical fibers, we will need repeaters or amplifiers. So here, and this terrestrial microwave requires fewer repeaters, but they need a line of sight. And how are they? So they are basically in the form of a dish. So we have a parabolic dish, and the size is about 3 meters in diameter. And the that antenna, microwave antenna, is basically fixed on some substantial height above the ground level to extend the range between the antennas and to transmit it. That is, it needs a line of sight basically. That is, whenever the signal is being transmitted, there should not be any obstacles. So for that reason, they are put on a height. And whenever, what is the main source of loss is attenuation. That is, whenever noise or interference is usually because of distance or in the case of rainfall. And microwave is that is microwave antennas are usually used for two kinds of transmission. One is the voice, and the other is the television. So now, by now, you might have understood that television dish uses this microwave transmission. And another common use of microwave is for short point-to-point link between the buildings. So that can be used for the CCTV or as a data link between the local area networks. And also, microwave links are used for long distance telecommunication facility in the same city. Next, we have the satellite microwave. So microwave is basically, there are two. One is the terrestrial microwave and the other is the satellite microwave. So in the case of satellite microwave, we use a communication satellite, and it is basically a microwave relay station, and it is used to link two or more, so two microwave radiations transmitters or receivers on the earth. So this example depicted. So this is a microwave transmitter or receiver. So this is the transmitter and this is the one receiving. So the transmitter will transmit the signal from the earth to the satellite, and then that is given to the receiver on the earth. So the satellite receives transmission on one frequency band. That band is known as uplink, and it amplifies or repeats the signal and transmits it to another frequency, which is the downlink. So a single orbiting satellite will operate on a number of frequency bands. So those are called the transponder channels, or simply the transponder. So this is the figure, which is the uh, common configuration for satellite communication, that is satellite point-to-point link. Since we have a single link between one Earth microwave transmitter to the satellite and then one link to the receiver. So in the first, the satellite is being used to provide point-to-point link between the two distant ground-based antennas. So here, and this is the satellite broadcast link. So we have one transmitter. So this is the single transmitter, and that is transmitting the signal to the satellite, and then we have multiple receivers. So in this, a satellite provides communication between one ground-based transmitter and a number of ground-based receivers. So for this communication satellites to function effectively, these satellites are supposed to be stationary, that is, they should remain at one place, and it should not it sh- and its position should be over the earth in such a way that it should be within the line of sight of the earth at all times, and the satellite must have a period of rotation equal to the earth's period of rotation. Now after that, if the two if there are two satellites and they are using the same frequency band, then interference will occur. So to avoid this, each satellite must have a frequency band of different frequencies. So in this case, the number of satellites will be limited. Now, where do we use the satellite broadcast link? One is the obvious one, the television distribution link. Then next is long distance phone transmission, or long distance telephone transmission, and private business networks, and global positioning. So satellites are the first and most important application of satellites is basically for television distribution, and they are used exclusively in almost all kinds of television distribution. And the next is, it is also used for point-to-point trunks between telephone exchange offices earlier, and there are a number of business data applications for the satellites. Now next we have, so, satellite broadcast link and satellite point-to-point link. Yeah, here the uplink frequency and the downlink frequency is mentioned. So satellite is basically a relay station. So it will take the signal and transmit it somewhere. Relay is basically like a middle person or a middle point. It is just simply for taking the data and transmitting somewhere else. It does not have any use of the data, and it receives on one frequency, amplifies or repeats the signal, and transmits on other frequency. And it requires a geostationary or orbit, and the height. Typical uses are these. Next is the broadcast radio. So broadcast radio is basically, instead of broadcast radio, we usually use the term radio. So it has a frequency of 3 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz, and broadcast radio has a frequency of 30 megahertz to 1 gigahertz. For what do we use this for? FM. So FM radio and UHF and VHF television. Now, what is this UHF and VHF television? These are the ultra high frequency and very high frequency television channels. And radio is basically omnidirectional, that is, it is in all directions. but yet it will still need a line of sight. That is, whenever you're talking, the antennas or the transmitters should be visible, or they should not have an should not have some kind of obstruction in between. So in the case of radio, it suffers from multipath interference. That is, reflections from land, water, or other objects will create interference in the case of radio transmission. And also, their range is used for a number of data networking applications. And the principal difference between the radio and microwave is that this is the radio is omnidirectional, that is an all directional, and microwave is in only microwave is just directional, that is it transmits only in one direction. Now the broadcast radio does not require dish shaped antennas, and the antennas need not be mounted on some height. So apart from that, the range is effective. This range 30 megahertz to 1 gigahertz is effective for broadcast communication. That is when you are transmitting to everyone. And in the case of microwaves, so unlike the higher frequency of the microwave regions, broadcast waves are less sensitive to attenuation from rainfall, but they, if reflections from land, water, or natural or human-made objects can create multiple paths, and for that reason, interference may occur. Now, the next is the infrared. So, infrared communications is achieved using either transmitters or receivers, and they modulate the non-coherent infrared light. That is, transmitters must be within the line, that is transmitters or the receivers, both of them together we call them as transceivers. That is, the ones which are transmitting and receiving both, so must be within the line of sight of each other directly. And one important difference between the infrared and the microwave transmission is that uh, infrared will not penetrate the walls. That is, it needs to be confined to some area. So security is problem in the case of microwave. Security and interference problems in the case of microwave are not present. So infrared is blocked by walls and no license is required. And typical users in the case of infrared is TV remote controls and the IRD ports. So that concludes our guided transmission media and unguided transmission media. And with this, we conclude the first half of Unit 1.